Welcome to How to Survive a Horror Movie. An Apology by Wes Craven. There is something I've been meaning to get off my chest. Something has been eating away at my conscience for decades now, and I'll admit it's not easy to write without getting a little choked up. I'm sorry. Oops. I'm sorry to the countless people whose lives I've cut short, the characters who've come unwillingly sacrificed to my art, the buxom babysitters, the doubting cops, the overbearing parents and the well-intentioned boyfriends, teens with their whole lives ahead of them, decent, hardworking adults, all sent to an early grave in the name of box office gold. Some made my job a little trickier, valiantly struggling to make it to the end credits. Otherwise did everything but cut their own throats, running upstairs when they should have run out the house, falling asleep when their lives depended on staying awake. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't taken pleasure in dreaming up ways to kill them, disemboweling them, beheading them, burning them, shooting them, crushing them in garage doors. I've tortured young girls in Last House on the Left, picked off an entire family one by one in The Hills Have Eyes, created a child-murdering monster with the power to kill people in their dreams. I built a career on the blood of innocence, and I guess the guilt's finally caught up with me. Sure, I've tried to make amends before, tried to give my characters a fighting chance. New Nightmare was the first step towards self-aware horror movie characters. Scream went a step further. For the first time, we had people who knew they were in a horror movie. Even better, they were armed with the knowledge and the rules, and yet they died. No matter what I do, no matter how much of a head start I give them, it seems my characters always end up on the wrong end of a long knife. And while I am happy that somebody's finally written a guide to helping them survive, I wonder how much good it'll really do. Death always finds a way. I needed that. Introduction. Don't let us make imaginary evils when you know we have so many real ones to encounter. Oliver Goldsmith. Brace yourself for some bad news. If you're reading this, there's a good chance, you've become trapped in a horror movie. I know, it sounds crazy, but you'll just have to trust me for a minute, okay? This book has a knack for finding its way into the right hands. If it's found its way into yours, there's a reason. Questions, you've got a million. Lord knows I did. How's that even possible? Why me? Am I going to die? Nobody knows the answers to those first two. Maybe you fell down a rabbit hole or took one too many pulls off the old peace pipe. Or, in the words of Aldous Huxley, maybe this world is another planet's hell. As for the last one, the answer is yes, and that's right soon. Unless you do exactly what I tell you. Over the next 170 pages. I've spent the better part of my life, if you can call it that, trapped in the Terrorverse, sleeping with one eye open and one finger on the trigger. For almost 20 years now, I've tangled with all manners of ghosts, demons, slashers, half-retarded hillbillies. I've vanquished vampires, blown the heads off my share of zombies, even danced with the devil himself, all without a lick of help. And you know what? I'm still here, so I figure I must be doing something right. I've also watched a lot of good people die, spent enough time in horror movies, and you're bound to lose two things, friends and appendages. I've also watched screenwriters, directors, and invisible gods of this god-forsaken land become increasingly clever and cruel over the years, so I decided to write down what I'd learned in hopes that new rivals to the Terrorverse, that's you, would stand a better chance of making it all the way to the end credits, sharing the skills I'd learned from the life spent dodging the kills. From this moment on, nothing is what it seems. You're not a human being, you're a character, and filmmakers are doing everything in their power to kill you. Even now, supernatural powers and curses are real, and numbers like 666 and 237 can kill you just as easily as a butcher's knife. Log cabins are slaughterhouses. Cornstalks are antennas for evil, and aliens never ever come in peace. And me? I'll be your guide through hell. I'll teach you how to perform an exorcism, survive a night of babysitting, and navigate a cemetery, without becoming a permanent addition, of course. I'll teach you how to escape an inescapable spot harbingers of impending doom, and defeat a haunted house. Most importantly, I'll show you how to make life miserable for the screenwriters and directors who are trying to end yours. So I suggest you stick close, pay attention, and avoid breaking the Terraverse's only commandment: thou shalt not be stupid. Now come with me if you want to live. Welcome to the Terraverse! Dr. Loomis, death has come to your little town, Sheriff. Now you can either ignore it, or you can help me to stop it. Halloween, 1978. Those of us who become trapped in a horror movie have a choice. You can either line up with the other cattle and march into the slaughterhouse, or we can fight back. Yes, it's a long way to the final credits. No, the odds aren't in our favor. But there's no excuse to lie down and let filmmakers have their way with us. Choose to learn the new rules. Choose to use them in your favor. Choose life. How you guys enjoying it so far? So this is, by the way, you'll notice very quickly if you read the comic, this is a heavy inspiration for my comic and my idea of horror. Also, I love the artwork. I do actually have a very old, worn copy of this book. How do I know if I'm in a horror movie? How do I know if I'm in a horror movie? Horror movie characters aren't killed by machete-wielding monsters or reincarnated psychopaths. They're killed by ignorance. Ignorance of the mortal danger they're in, of the butcher lurking in every shadow, of the new rules. Ignorance of the fact they're in a horror movie. How do you know if you've been sucked into the Terraverse? Sometimes the signs are unmistakable. For instance, if you're a teenage babysitter caring for a mute toddler in a remote Maine cabin during a once-in-a-century blizzard, while an escaped killer, bearing a strange resemblance to the handicapped boy you and your friends bullied off an embankment and left for dead all those years ago, roams the woods, you're probably in a horror movie. But unless you've landed the sloppiest of direct-to-video hack jobs, the cliches are going to be more subtle, your screenwriters more inventive, and your survival less skillful. 1. Determine how you came to own this book. In movies, things rarely happen without a reason. Therefore, the simple fact that you're holding a book called How to Survive a Horror Movie means someone probably is trying to tell you something. Think hard. How did you end up with this book? I'm going to be drinking a lot. I'm just borrowing it in the book. I'm just browsing in a bookstore. There's still a chance it's just a coincidence. Be warned, though, if you take this thing to the counter and buy it, your chances of being in a horror movie go through the roof. I ordered it online. This is not good. Computers can be a gateway to unspeakable evil. Perhaps you were merely enticed by the gorgeous cover and incredibly reasonable price. Someone gave it to me as a gift. Yikes! Getting a book called How to Survive a Horror Movie as a gift? Phew, that's like giving a young Liz Taylor How to Survive a Divorce. Oh, I just thought I'd make a nice gift, Liz. I'm sure you'll never need it. I found it in the woods. There's only one genre that would allow clumsy, contrived screenwriting like that. Proceed directly to Slasher Survive School, page 44. Now, take a look around. The environment should offer some clues. If you're on a crowded city street, in broad daylight, you're probably safe, for now. But if you're anywhere remote, the woods, an old house, an abandoned mental institution in the middle of a blackout, then yes, your chances of being in a horror movie are much higher. How the location looks and sounds can be helpful too. Does everything look slightly grainy? This could indicate that you're being shot on film, or that you're developing cataracts. Either way, not good. Is it poorly lit? Is everything bathed in bright blue light, even though it's supposed to be nighttime? Are there shadowy corners that you should be able to see into but can't? What is the set decoration like? Can you see children's sidewalk chalk drawings that should have washed away ages ago? Is everything suddenly covered in cobwebs or rust? Is there a thin layer of smoke on the ground for no reason? Do you hear strange sounds? Do strange or metal on metal noises seem to come out of nowhere? Does music crescendo every time you open a door? Are you speaking Japanese? According to the laws of early 21st century cinema, only speaking Japanese is in a horror movie. If the answer to any of these questions is affirmative, then we have to consider the possibility that you're become trapped in a horror movie. Take a look at yourself. Are you or any of your companions wearing a varsity leather jacket? Is there an achingly attractive yet sexually paralyzed female in your midst? Do all of your friends look suspiciously like the cast from Smallsville or Gilmore Girls? If so, your chances of meeting an untimely end just have increased by a factor of 10. Determine if you fit any of the classic horror movie character stereotypes. A. Nice guy with a monosyllabic first name. B. Slutty goth chick. Fuck you. C. Virginal cops / priests / richest man in town's daughter. D. The nerd. Or Neebish Jew. E. The congenial fat guy or deputy. F. The sex-crazed a-hole or the Italian. G. The black guy who buys it in 20 minutes in. Or H. The black guy's girlfriend who buys it 24 minutes in. Again, love this. I wonder if I can I put it side by side? No, I cannot. That was a mistake. 8 of the most common horror movie stereotypes. Just making sure you guys can see it fine. Yes, it is grainy on this too. This was bought by the Humble Bundle. Everyone blamed them for this. They did not scan this properly. If these bear an uncanny resemblance to you or your companions, you're almost certainly in a horror movie. But before we panic, let's confirm the diagnosis. 4. Conduct the MAD test. The MAD stands for Motivation and Dialogue, and it is one of the quickest, most accurate ways of confirming the presence of the Terrorverse. Motivation. If you or your friends feel strangely compelled to do any of the following, you're definitely in a horror movie. Dig up a coffin to make sure something's really dead. Harass a hobo or retarded child. Play with a Ouija board or read from a dusty old book. Have sex in that house where the guy killed his whole family. Carve a crucifix into your face with a rusty screwdriver. Ouch, by the way. Dialogue. Ask each of your companions what time it is. If they answer with the following, you're in deep trouble. The a-hole / Italian. Time for some pussy. That's what fucking time it is. The black girl's girlfriend. Oh, no, you didn't. The nerd / Neebish Jew. Oh, wow. I didn't even think you knew my name. The slutty goth. I'm your ex, not your Rolex. The fat guy. Mouthful of lasagna. 5. Check the calendar. There are only 3 months in the horror movie year. July, October, and December. In July, teens are off from school, free to drink and wear bikinis, attend summer camps, and take each other's virginity at will. October is, of course, the unholiest of months, when the long-dead serial killers, ghost witches, and all manner of beasts return of the world of the living to seek revenge, and December is reserved for Christmas killing sprees, evil Santas, possessed stepfathers, gremlins, and snowbound caretakers. If the nearest calendar reads May, you can relax a little. However, if ever Friday falls on the 13th, forget the month, you're toast. 6. Check your watch. The horror movie day is still 24 hours long, but 21 of those hours are at night. If it's almost always dark, all signs point to a horror movie. Ditto if the moon is always full, but even more telling when the lopsided night/day ratios are huge gaps in your personal space-time continuum. If you find yourself asking, how did I get here? Again and again, it's probably because an editor has looped out all the boring bits of your daily existence. Walking from point A to point B, sitting on the couch, watching a cops marathon, and taking showers. Unless you're a girl with spectacular boobs like me. Are you in a sequel? You're probably thinking, who cares? Isn't it bad enough that I'm in a horror movie? Well, yes. But knowing whether you're in the first, second, or 17th installment is important. The later you appear in the series, the higher chance of survival. With every sequel, the writing gets sloppier, the killer's methods more predictable, and the danger zones are more pronounced. Example, let's say you're offered a job as a camp counselor. You go online, do a Google search at the camp's name, and get 3,700 articles about the murders that occurred there every summer for the last 20 years. Result, you spend the summer flipping burgers and keeping your limbs. But how can you be sure? Here are a few sequel warning signs. You're attending a nondescript college in an undefined state, and your friends keep saying things like, "Can you believe we're in college now?" You have shaky black and white flashbacks of someone else's unhappy childhood. Corbin Burnson is your father. You're in space. You're in 3D. You have the oddest feeling that you're only here for the money. You guys see so far why I like this book? What do you all think? I'm not doing this all tonight, by the way. We'll break this up into like 2 streams. How do I know what type of horror movie I'm in? You've used all the diagnostic tools outlined in the last chapter, and you've arrived at the terrifying yet undeniable conclusion. Somehow you managed to become trapped in the horror movie. Now what? Just skip ahead a few pages to find the magic cure that'll fix everything? Don't waste your time. It doesn't exist. Saying I'm in a horror movie is kind of like saying I'm in Europe. Sure, you narrowed it down to a continent, but what language should you use to order dinner? What side of the road should you drive on? Can you take off your top at the beach? There are many subgenres and sub-subgenres in horror movie universe, each requiring different survival skills. They can be broken down like this. Sorry. A lot of reading. Slasher, blade-wielding psychopath, both human and supernatural ones. Evil places and things. An evil vehicle, a killer doll, or a haunted house. The undead. Ghosts, zombies, mummies, and the reanimated. Fangs, werewolves, aliens, and vampires. Satanic, demons, curses, and, well, the devil. This book contains tactics to help you survive each and every one of these subgenres. Now it's time to pinpoint your location. So we're going to finish this chapter tonight. 1. Gather clues from your movie settings. You've already scanned your surroundings for the horror movie suspects. Now it's time to take a closer look. Your location can speak volumes about the movie subgenre, assuming you know how to read tea leaves. An isolated, dilapidated house. If you're a young female alone in the house, all signs point to a slasher. If you're joined by friends or relatives, it's a haunted house. If the windows and doors are boarded up, there are about 7,000 zombies outside waiting to feast on your brain. A summer camp. You're in a slasher movie. Deep space. You're either in a really well-made alien flick or a nauseatingly bad late in the series slasher fic. Midwestern United States. Hard to tell. This could be anything from non-supernatural slasher to an evil vehicle rampaging. However, if your friends find a meteorite in the woods, you should probably shoot him in the face and burn his body. Just to be safe, you see. A constantly overcast city. Urban horror movies are almost always satanic in nature. Curses and demons should be high on your list of concerns. Eastern Europe. You're in a werewolf movie. Or Western Europe, you're in a werewolf movie. Eastern Europe, you're in a vampire movie. 2. Determine your movie's budget. Some subgenres often break down along budget lines, so it can be very helpful to get a fix on how deep the producer's pockets are. 3 things to observe. Location. Are you in a city or the suburbs? It's much more expensive to shoot a movie in the city. Do you live in a luxury home or run down one bedroom? Set construction is costly. How much freedom do you have to visit different places? The more you move around, the more sets have to be built or location fees paid. Look, does the lighting seem natural, or are you distracted by how flat and harsh it is? Could be production afforded a talent cinematographer? How nicely is everything decorated? If you open desk drawers, are there supplies inside or are they empty? How big was the art department's budget? Licensing. Do you hear any popular songs or watch any real movies or TV shows as you go about your day? If so, the producers had to pay through the nose for the rights, suggesting a higher budget. If everything points to a cash-strapped production, you're probably in a low or even micro-budgeted horror flick. The most common kind. If you're not exactly sure where your movie falls, it's likely that the filmmakers are working with a modest budget. And if you feel as if no expenses has been spared, it's possible you're in a seldom seen big budget horror movie. So how does this help you figure out a subgenre? Low or micro budget. The photography isn't particularly eye-catching. There aren't more than a few major settings, and you're nowhere near a city. Possible subgenres: slasher, the undead, evil places, and the things like that. Modest budget. Day looks like day, night looks like night, and you're able to visit well-populated public places. Perhaps you live in a charming, richly decorated farmhouse or a luxury apartment. Possible subgenres: the undead, fangs, satanic. Big budget. Really? Really? If you're in a horror flick, it's almost certainly alien or satanic in nature. But it's more likely that you've made the common mistake of misdiagnosing a horror psychedelical I know this word. Psychological thriller. I don't know why I kept getting that wrong. As a horror movie, if so, heed this advice. If you're looking for your child, he/she probably never existed. Also, your husband did it. 3. Determine your movie's time period. The overwhelming... Well, you know what? Let's see. Okay, that should start. Okay, that'll work. Okay, yep. Because I have to go walk the dog soon. 3. Determine your movie's time period. The overwhelming majority of horror movies exist in present, mainly because they're made for teenagers. And the easiest way to scare teenagers is to show them other teenagers who look and sound just like them, getting hacked to pieces, and because it's way, way cheaper to film in the present. But if you happen to find yourself wearing pantaloons or snoozing in a hypersleep pod, those subgenres become easier to sniff out. The past. Consider the possibility that you're merely in a flashback sequence, the one where the old lady hangs herself, thus making the house evil, blah, blah, blah. But if you're really stuck in a salted pork era, specifically the 18th or 19th centuries, you're probably in a mummy or vampire movie, the only subgenre that dares to break the unwritten rule against making period horror flicks. The future. Another rarity in the Terrorverse. A futuristic setting almost always means you're in an alien movie, although in a few cases some overly ambitious slashers have made their way to that final frontier. 4. Look for dead giveaways. Sometimes it takes careful deduction to figure out a movie's subgenre, but sometimes a clue is so obvious that it eliminates the need to further analyze. For examples, your friends use SPF 1 billion sunblock at the beach. Subgenre: vampires. Slice of bread starts screaming when you put them in the toaster. Subgenre: haunted house. Your husband seems distant lately, plus he tries to order brains every time you go to the restaurants. Subgenre: definitely zombies. A cat jumps out of every door, cabinet, window, oven, washing machine, jar, or tube of toothpaste you open. Subgenre, slasher. Bibles burst into flames when they're brought within the reach of your child. The devil. Know your harbingers of impending doom. The dual citizen. A dual citizen is a special breed of character found only in horror films. He or she is someone, usually an elderly man, who exists somewhere between the Terrorverse and the real world. Dual citizens always function in the same way. Give the audience some neatly bundled backstory and force the protagonist to make a choice. Either heed the warning and turn back, or ignore it and forge ahead. Inevitably, our hero always chooses option 2, otherwise we wouldn't have much of a movie. But if your goal is to survive, you do well to advise to get the hell out of Dodge when some old codger tells you to. Narrative structures be damned. Here are 3 of the most common dual citizens to be a lookout for. Gas station attendants who live just down the road from the evil town that tells you not to go there, even though he seems relatively uninfected by the evil. Why hasn't he moved away or called the cops in all these years? The local barfly who tells you a story beginning with, "It was a night just like tonight." A homeless guy who grabs your arm after you toss a nickel in his cup, stares into your eyes, and says something prophetic like, "If you're trapped in the house of hell, follow the right path to freedom." Of course, this advice eventually saves your life at the end of the movie when you're confronted with 2 doors while escaping the serial killer's basement. Hero: "One door on the left and one on the right?" Puts it together. "Right path! Follow the right path to freedom!" God, what a clever screenwriting. Still, you've been better off identifying him as a dual citizen and not entering the house of hell in the first place. So the next time we'll be starting with Craven. I hope you guys enjoyed our first jump into how to survive a horror movie.